You ever suddenly woken up in the dead of night, feeling like something important is happening? Many people report waking up consistently around 3 a.m. and wonder what it could mean. Is it just a coincidence? Or is there a spiritual significance behind it? Today we're going to explore the mystery of waking up during these sacred hours, which many believe is a sign that God is trying to communicate with you. The idea that these awakenings aren't just interruptions in sleep but genuine divine calls has intrigued people worldwide. But what exactly does it mean to wake up at this time? Why specifically at 3 a.m.? And what do the Bible and spiritual tradition have to say about it? Throughout this video we'll dive into biblical stories and passages, examine sleep cycles, and understand why for some, these moments can be opportunities for a profound connection with God. Stay with us until the end to discover the secret no one has told you about what it really means to wake up in the middle of the night. To understand the significance of waking up at dawn, it's important to know a little about sleep cycles and how, throughout history, God has used these moments to communicate with people. Our sleep goes through different phases, and in the middle of the night, we're usually in a lighter sleep state. It's a moment when we're more receptive to stimuli, and many scholars and spiritual leaders believe this vulnerability can make us more open to receiving spiritual messages. When we're in complete silence, far from the distractions of everyday life, our hearts and minds are more likely to pick up on what God might be trying to show us. And this concept isn't new. In the Bible, God frequently used dreams and visions to speak with his servants. In stories like those of Joseph, Daniel, and even Jacob, we see that sleep is a way through which God reveals plans, prophecies, and guidance. Through these dreams, he conveys important messages, offers direction, and even answers to each person's personal dilemmas. And so, we ask ourselves, could waking up at 3 a.m. actually be an opening for spiritual dialogue? For many, this time represents a subtle invitation to pray, reflect, and connect. The Bible is filled with examples that show us God never misses an opportunity to reach those he loves, especially in moments of tranquility. Our next step is to take a closer look at these stories and understand how dreams were used by God to communicate. Let's start with an iconic example, Jacob's dream, where he envisions a ladder connecting earth to heaven. One of the most remarkable passages about dreams in the Bible is the story of Jacob and his vision of a ladder. This episode, found in Genesis 28, is a profound example of how God can use dreams to communicate spiritual truths and reveal his presence to us. In the account, Jacob, fleeing and exhausted, lies down to rest in an unfamiliar place. During his sleep, he has an extraordinary dream. He sees a ladder that stretches from earth to heaven, and angels are ascending and descending on it. At the top of the ladder, God himself appears and speaks to him, promising blessings, protection, and an inheritance for him and his descendants. It's a powerful and deeply symbolic vision. When Jacob wakes, he feels God's presence so intensely that he names that place Bethel, meaning house of God. He realizes that even in an ordinary location, God manifests himself and transforms the mundane into something sacred. This dream demonstrates that the divine isn't limited to temples or mountains but can be present anywhere. The ladder Jacob sees represents this connection between the human and the divine, a pathway through which God's messages can reach us. It's a symbol that God is always seeking to communicate and bridge the gap with humanity. But what does this have to do with waking up in the middle of the night? Just as Jacob was awakened spiritually through his dream, many believe that the act of waking up at unusual hours can be God's way of calling us to pay attention, reminding us that he is present and guiding us through uncertain moments. It's an invitation to connect with the spiritual, to recognize the divine presence, and perhaps, to listen to what God has to tell us. This story is an invitation to each of us to be attentive to signs and open to God's presence in our daily lives. And who knows, when we wake up at 3 a.m., we might feel like Jacob that we are in a house of God no matter where we are. Now that we understand how God can manifest and communicate important messages to us, let's delve deeper into the concept of waking up in the early hours, specifically around 3 a.m., and how it can hold powerful spiritual meaning. For many people, waking at this hour is merely an interruption in sleep, but for others, especially those seeking spiritual growth, this moment is seen as a sacred calling. In Christianity and various spiritual traditions, the early hours are considered a sacred time, a moment of quiet when the world is at its calmest and the mind is most receptive. In this silence, many believe it's possible to hear the voice of God more clearly. In several biblical passages, we see men and women awakened by God to receive guidance, like Samuel, who heard God's voice calling him as he slept. In the same way, waking up at 3 a.m. can be a call to prayer, meditation, or deep reflection on our life and purpose. It's a time that pulls us out of our routine and, at the same time, opens us to a more intimate connection with the spiritual. This awakening can be an opportunity to lay our concerns before God, seek answers to our dilemmas, or simply listen. The stillness of the early hours creates a unique space, free from daily distractions, making it easier for our mind and heart to be more in tune with what God might be revealing to us. Additionally, in spiritual traditions, 3 a.m. is often seen as a transition point, where the boundaries between the material and the spiritual are thinner. Some people say that at this time, they can feel God's presence more tangibly, or even experience uncommon peace and clarity. So, the next time you wake up at 3 a.m., consider that it may be more than just a simple awakening. It could be a divine invitation to commune, to listen, reflect, and strengthen yourself spiritually. One of the most iconic stories in the Bible about a direct encounter with God is the story of Moses and the burning bush, narrated in Exodus 3. This is one of the most profound and mysterious moments in biblical narrative, where God chooses to reveal himself in a completely unexpected way. Moses was tending the sheep of his father-in-law, Jethro, when he encounters an extraordinary vision. A bush, an ordinary plant, that is on fire but does not burn up. This vision captures his attention in a way he cannot ignore. As Moses approaches, he hears the voice of God coming from the midst of the bush, and God calls him by name. He responds, "Here I am." God then asks Moses to take off his sandals, for the ground has become sacred. This gesture symbolizes respect and reverence before the divine. Removing the sandals represents humility, the ability to recognize that we are before something far greater than ourselves, something that demands respect and awe. In this encounter, God not only reveals his name, "I am who I am," but also entrusts Moses with a grand mission, to free the people of Israel from slavery in Egypt. The burning bush symbolizes God's powerful presence in ordinary places, something that at first glance might seem insignificant but becomes special through divine presence. This story teaches us that God can appear in our lives in unexpected ways and calls us to greater purposes. Just as Moses was merely tending sheep when he received his calling, perhaps you too might be awakened to something special in the midst of routine activities or moments of silence, like at 3 a.m. This is a reminder to be open and attentive. Sometimes, God calls us through signs and awakenings, pulling us out of routine so we can listen to him and understand what he desires for our lives. Perhaps, like the burning bush, these awakenings are a way for God to ignite within us a flame of purpose and direction. When we wake at strange or unusual times, we are invited, like Moses, to remove the sandals of our daily lives and recognize the sacredness of the moment. Another powerful example of divine communication through dreams and visions is the story of Daniel and King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, narrated in the book of Daniel, chapter 2. This story reveals not only God's power but also the importance of trusting him to guide our lives and reveal his will. King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that deeply troubled him, yet he couldn't recall the details, and he demanded his wise men interpret it nonetheless. None of the kingdom's wise men or seers could decipher the king's dream, causing great unease throughout the palace. It was then that Daniel, a man of faith and deep relationship with God, stepped forward. With unshakable faith, Daniel turned to God in prayer, asking for wisdom to interpret the dream. And it was during the night that God provided the answer, revealing the king's dream and its meaning to him. The following day, Daniel went to Nebuchadnezzar and humbly explained the dream, making it clear that it was not by his own ability but by the power of God that he could understand the vision. What makes this story so inspiring is Daniel's trust in God. Even in a situation where everything seemed impossible, he knew that God could give him the answers. This story teaches us that sometimes the moments when we are confused and directionless are exactly the moments when we should surrender everything to God and trust that he will reveal what we need to know. Just like Daniel, when we wake up at unusual times such as 3 a.m., this may be a reminder to trust in God. These awakenings can be opportunities to seek guidance, to pray, and to ask God to help us understand what we cannot comprehend alone. Daniel shows us that the key is to trust, pray, and believe that God will guide us. This nocturnal awakening can be an invitation to surrender our concerns and trust in the plan he has for us. Often, the simple act of turning to God in prayer in the middle of the night may be just what we need to find peace and clarity. Many spiritual traditions, including Christianity, believe that each hour of the early morning holds a special significance and may reflect our emotional, mental, or spiritual state. Let's explore what each time might symbolize and how we can interpret these nighttime hours as potential messages for our lives. Between 9 and 10 p.m. This time often reflects moments of worry or anxiety. Perhaps you've ended the day with unresolved issues or a heavy heart. The message here is simple. It's important to relax and hand your worries over to God before sleeping. Pray, ask for guidance, and most importantly, trust that He will take care of what is beyond your control. Between 10 and 11 p.m. this period is related to emotional healing. Often, it represents an invitation to forgive, both yourself and others. If you wake up during this time, consider it a call to reflect on hurts and ask God to restore your heart, allowing peace to prevail. Remember, God is the restorer and the comforter. Between 11 p.m. and midnight this time often signifies a search for purpose. Perhaps you're questioning your path or sense of life direction. This is a good moment to reflect on your gifts and talents, those God has given you, and consider how you can use them to help others and fulfill your divine purpose. Pray that God will guide your steps and help you find your way. Between midnight and 1 a.m. this is considered a time of spiritual awakening. Waking up at this hour can be an invitation to deepen your connection with God. It's an ideal moment for prayer and meditation, allowing your soul to be more open to hearing the divine voice. It's a profound time to reflect on your faith and spiritual journey. Between 1 and 3 a.m. For many, this time represents a transition and a moment of renewal. It may be that God is telling you it's time to leave the past behind and move forward, trusting in the new path He has prepared for you. This awakening can be an opportunity to ask God for strength and courage for the challenges ahead. Between 3 and 4 a.m. this is the most mentioned time when discussing spiritual awakenings. For many, this is considered a sacred moment when God's presence is felt more intensely. Waking up at 3 a.m. can be a call to commune with God, an invitation to a moment of silent and deep prayer, where you can hear and feel the divine presence. For many, these nighttime awakenings are more than mere interruptions in sleep. They are moments of self-discovery, surrender, and reflection. When we wake up at these times, it may be helpful to reflect on what's in our hearts and take the opportunity to seek answers or entrust our concerns to God. The next time you wake up in the early hours, consider it a special moment, a reminder to be present and aware that God is always by your side, ready to hear your prayers and guide your steps. For many, sleep can be a sacred time, a period of physical and mental rest, but also an opportunity for spiritual connection. Here are some practical tips to improve your sleep and make these nighttime hours a chance to draw closer to God. 1. Establish a regular sleep routine ***. Going to sleep and waking up at the same time every day helps regulate your body and mind. When your body becomes accustomed to a schedule, it better prepares for rest. This habit creates a foundation so that even if you wake up in the middle of the night, you'll find it easier to fall back asleep. 2. Avoid stimulants in the evening ***. Caffeine, energy drinks, and even heavy foods can disrupt your sleep, especially if consumed close to bedtime. Try drinking something lighter and calming, like chamomile or valerian tea, which help induce relaxation. 3. Create a peaceful sleep environment ***. Your surroundings significantly impact the quality of your sleep. Try to keep your room dark, quiet, and cool. Some people find it helpful to listen to soft music or nature sounds to create an even more relaxing atmosphere conducive to deep sleep. 4. Develop a spiritual ritual before sleep ***. Take a moment to say a prayer, give thanks for the day, and ask for peace of mind. It can be a simple prayer or a time of silent meditation. As you prepare for sleep, hand your worries over to God and trust that He will take care of what's beyond your control. This can help release tension and create a sense of calm and security. 5. Woke up in the middle of the night? Use it to connect spiritually ***. If you wake up during the early morning and feel you can't fall back asleep, use that moment for a brief prayer. It can be an opportunity to reflect, pray for guidance, or simply feel God's presence. Embrace this moment as a gift, a chance to deepen your faith and strengthen your spiritual connection. 6. Focus on your breathing ***. Breathing exercises help calm the mind and body. Breathe deeply, hold your breath for a few seconds and then exhale slowly. This helps reduce anxiety and prepares your mind for restorative sleep. Conclusion: waking up in the early hours can bring peace and understanding, an invitation to seek a deeper purpose and reconnect with God. It may be His way of reminding you that, in the midst of worries, He is present, guiding your steps. With each awakening, see it as a loving reminder to connect with the divine. If this video touched your heart, don't forget to like it, share it with someone who may need to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel for more content to enrich your spiritual journey. May God bless your sleep, and may you find peace and guidance with each awakening.